All right, the next grouping of albums are all artists that were completely new to me this year. Um, Not all debut albums, just some of them I just never heard them before until this year. The first one that I'm going to talk about is off a label that I've been really following over the last couple of years, Bobo Integral out of Madrid. This is the album Field School. When Summer Comes is the name of it. And this is kind of jangly, lo-fi indie pop. This is almost, at times, kind of has like a Sarah Records kind of feel to it. It's real kind of a sad bastard indie pop, you know, catchy melodies to cry along to. Some of these just great song titles, like Loving Me Was Never Gonna Work Out. I just want to paint you in pictures. I'm starting to feel a bit like myself again. If you see me around, just act like you didn't. Yeah, just real mopey stuff, but absolutely fantastic, really catchy. Very kind of like guitar forward, and the drum, there's very minimal kind of percussion in it, which makes for a really interesting sound. Kind of gives it something that kind of separates itself from a lot of the other bands that kind of sound like this. It's a kind of very trendy kind of sound these days. But yeah, Field School, excellent debut.
And the sky was a fire of purples, pinks, and red. As the moon and stars conspire to put the sun to bed. And I'm still amazed by you. I'm still amazed by you.
Okay, kind of in that similar vein. It wouldn't be a new year in music for me recently if it wasn't a new Australian band that I discovered. And this is Levity by the Stroppies. This is their second full length. They have 4 releases, but 2 of them are EPs. Their first album came out in 2019. And I had just never heard it. This was the first thing that I'd ever heard by them. Kind of went back and listened to that first album. I believe it's called Whoosh. It's kind of a breezier, kind of more kind of jangle pop. This is a little bit edgier. Kind of has that kind of late 80s, early 90s kind of college radio sound. You hear, you know, Pixies, things like that in it. My favorite kind of aspect of my favorite parts of this album are when the male and female vocals sing together in unison. Really kind of choppy rhythms. This is an outstanding record. I would definitely say this was in my top 10 of the year. This is a band that I will be paying attention to with future releases. The Stroppies, Levity. It's on Tough Love Records.
You find yourself indifferent to the company you keep, and smiles strange politely in your sleep, dreaming of the people you beseech.
This is something pretty different from what I've been showing. In the last year and a half, 2 years, I've really been kind of getting into more kind of ambient, kind of instrumental music, some more kind of electronic stuff and jazz that's kind of, you know, in a different realm. This is a band that I just kind of stumbled upon kind of doing a deep dive on Bandcamp. I kind of wanted to see like what was going on and kind of the contemporary scene with music like that. This band is called Joy's Union Group, and the album is Boredom Euphoria. It's on Trouble in Mind Records. I believe they're out of Austin, Texas. The album title is brilliant and perfectly describes the music. You've been listening to post-rock all your life, and then all of a sudden you kind of get the urge for new age music. This would be your entry point. I guess that was kind of autobiographical, but yeah, it's I would kind of call it that. It's kind of new age kind of music. It has some jazzy elements though, with some horns, and the guitar work is very ambient and kind of meanders around and very kind of free form. I don't know. I'd kind of interested to hear what some other people would think of this, but for me, it kind of hits the right spot, and yeah, I think it's a great record. So a couple of videos back, I talked about it being on a road trip with my family and going to this record store in Boone and talking to the shop owner, and he turned me on to a couple of labels. One of them was Astral Spirits, and I started kind of exploring some of the titles on their catalog, and really got into this one. It's called Red, Green, Blue. That's the group name. The album is called The End and the Beginning. It's 2 side-long tracks. The A side is The Beginning, and the B side is The End. I guess you could call it jazz. It has elements that kind of remind me of some of the stuff that's on the International Anthem label, but this is very, very ambient, very kind of free form. The first side is really the track, The Beginning, is really kind of built centered around like a bass line. And it's just brilliant bass work by Charlie Kirchen. And then there's just a lot of kind of swells of like electronics, and yeah, it's just really kind of ambient and almost kind of like a Fripp and Eno kind of way. And the second side is much in the same kind of sound, but there's also some cornet by Ben Lamar Gay, who is an artist that's kind of rising up in the kind of contemporary jazz scene. He had an album on International Anthem this year. It's really the kind of thing that you can just kind of get lost in. And then the other label was Guru Brain, which is the label started by Kikaku Moyo. But this band I checked out. I don't know how you say it. I believe it's Diadala. And this is balls to the walls, kind of like space rock, kind of heavy, just loads of layers of guitars. This is a crazy record. Yeah, I'd say, you know, for fans of like Hawkwind, at times they kind of lock into a groove for like a really long time, but the guitars just build and build and build and build. I'd also say probably a little bit of like Flower Traveling Band and in there. Didala. The album's called Sensoria. Yeah, really, really cool stuff. Can't wait to kind of get into that label more, Guru Brain. And then the last person that I'm going to talk about that was a new discovery for me this year. This is his fourth record, but again, I just never heard of him until this year. And it's on a label that I follow, Paradise of Bachelors. It's Jake Xerxes Fussell. The album is Good and Green Again. Now he's an artist that mostly records traditional songs. Comes from a background, I believe his father was in the business of kind of discovering and archiving folk music. His sound is extremely vintage. His voice, his delivery, his vocal delivery is extremely vintage. It sounds like just kind of old-timey music. Much like in the same way that Gillian Welch and David Rawlings kind of do, but at the same time really validates, how relevant that music still is. On the first track, Will Oldham appears on it. This does have some of his first songs that he actually has written. All of his previous albums were, like I said, just recordings, interpretations of traditional songs. I can't recommend this enough for people that are fans of Will Oldham, Bill Callahan. It's kind of not as edgy as those guys, and not as kind of lo-fi indie sounding as those guys, but it's just fantastic music. I heard this and immediately fell in love with it, and then went and bought all of his previous records too.
Come fire land, on for marching, first for France, then for Holland. Cannons roar, colors fly, all my love, there's no denying. Ring farewell to my love, farewell. We're all marching around very well.
Okay, so those were all artists that were new to me in 2022. In the next installment of this kind of 2022 year-end series, I'm going to talk about artists that I've been familiar with for at least a couple of years, that all put out new records this year. They aren't artists I've been listening to forever, and they aren't artists that were brand new to me. They're kind of artists somewhere in the middle there. And so that'll be kind of the third installment and the final installment of this kind of year-end series of my favorite albums of 2022. And we'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.
Digital gramophone makes no sense.